Okay,
we're using their spare limbs.
Exactly.
I'm
okay.
assuming, that might make an ass out of you. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Bay Area stats.
Well, what happens when you say, I presume? Then you make a...
Presume instead of assume?
Yeah. Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome, you're listening to the Best of Investing on Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here is our format. A few guys sitting around a bar, having drinks, without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender. And our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station. Today's trivia theme is poker. I thought that'd be kind of fun.
Absolutely.
Okay, our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. We're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. And today's special guest is Shari McGuire, who's going to help us have less stress and find more time to chill with family and friends, and is going to have a little special offer for our listeners later on. And Mark, why don't you actually introduce her with her credentials?
Indeed, Shari McGuire has been seen or quoted on abcnews.com and msnliving.com, also in Redbook, Parenting, and Women's World. She's been heard on radio stations nationwide and is the author of the book, Take Back Your Time, 101 Simple Tips to Shrink Your Work Week and Conquer the Chaos in Your Life. Shari McGuire, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, so your topic, this is great. The secret to finding more time to chill. What is it about this topic that has attracted you?
Well, I was a student of time management for many years, trying to figure it out. And the short story is, I was working 70 hours a week at a corporate job, burned out, walked away from it all to be an entrepreneur, was still working 60 to 70 hours a week, went back to corporate, and it was in that moment I discovered the secret to shrink your work week, and went on to lead my largest IT project manager background, and in just 40 hours a week I did 70 hours worth of work, and so that was 1,200 hours I put back in my year.
Well, okay. What is the secret to getting more work done in less time, or the amount of work you want to get done in less time?
Well, I should ask, because the secret really is getting clear on why. Why do you want your life to be different? Because see, until you know why you want to be working fewer hours, you're not willing to make the difference. I had a client once who said, well, I said, what are you going to do with all this extra time if we work together? She said, well, I have to do some laundry. And I'm thinking, you're not really going to make all these changes to do laundry. But for me, it was about wanting to spend time with my son, and very specifically getting to karate lessons in the afternoon. So that's the secret, because then you can make different choices.
Yeah, I remember when I had an older associate some years back, we decided we were going, the next year, what was our goal? We were going to work less and make more. And it actually worked.
That's a great goal. Yeah. So I know a lot of us, when it comes to time management, we work off to-do lists. But the problem with my to-do list, Shari, is it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And then, then I got several pages. Do you have any tips for our listeners for managing your to-do list?
Well, actually, one of the things that I've done is I've ditched my to-do list. I don't have one anymore. Instead, what I do is when I have something that needs to get done, it goes on my calendar. Let's say it needs to get done 3 days from now. So I pick a time on that day, 3 days from now, like 9 o'clock, put that on my calendar as something to get done, and I know in 3 days the reminder will pop up and I will do it then. And that way I don't have this long list that I need to maintain, because I was forever perfecting the verbiage in there or wanting to write something down to cross it off and stuff like that. And it saved me a ton of time.
You know, I've also been kind of a student of personal development myself, Shari, and one of my coaches in a speech he wrote about productivity said the key to productivity is to do fewer things more often and get better at it. And now, you know, intuitively that makes a lot of sense, but I find it difficult to find fewer things to do because my list just continues to grow.
You have to delegate.
You know, so how do we discipline ourselves to try to focus on what's important?
So one of the things that you can do in the morning or before you go home at night, whichever you work better with, is to think about what are the top 3 things I need to get done either tomorrow or today, depending what time of day you're doing this. And but say, here's the 3 things that need to get done. Schedule it on your calendar. Make sure you've allotted enough time to do it. When the time comes up, like say you scheduled it for 1 o'clock, respect and honor that appointment on your calendar to do those tasks. And now you know you've got the most important stuff done, and the other things just fall by the wayside. You know, and even like a client of mine, we were just talking last night, he had been traveling for a couple weeks, and he had been really good about having an empty inbox. But with traveling, he got really behind and asked me what to do. I said, you know what? Those things that are old, just move them off somewhere else, and if they were important and they really need your help, they'll come back and look for you. So don't worry about those emails that piled up, because maybe they've taken care of the business already.
So you talk about the empty inbox, and you know that reminds me of the the fact that we live in an age now where phones are smartphones. They're basically computers. So we've got text and email, and most of us have multiple computers. We got one on our desk at work. We got a desk at home. We've got a laptop and we've got an iPad, and everything pings.
I'm getting stressed just listening to that.
Everything pings and dings all day long. Do you have any advice for how we should manage that
just throw them all away.
the nonstop distraction of emails and messages?
It is horrible, and every time you load a little app on your phone, it wants to set up little badges and messages that come your way, and you really want to just go into the settings and turn all of that off.
I know, I keep getting all these Angry Bird type things coming on my phone. Angry Birds keeps telling me, hey, update this.
It's like, okay, I don't have time for Angry Birds right now, So turn all those little reminders off, and because it's a distraction. Every time you have a distraction in your day, it breaks up your concentration. So let's say you were busy working on something, and you're really deep in thought, and your phone pings because Angry Birds wants you to play again. Your train of thought is now lost, and it can take you 20 minutes to just regain what was I working on again. Let me recalculate that thought, and now you've lost a lot of time. Just 3 of those little interruptions in your day, whether it be someone stopping by, your phone ringing, a ding here or there, that can add up to an hour of lost productivity with just 3 of them.
Well, it's amazing the inefficiency that happens. I mean, sometimes I have to just say to everyone, looks like I just need a few minutes by myself just to gather my thoughts, and then I'll be all set, ready to go.
I've heard that the inbox has been called basically a list of other people's priorities for you.
That's a good thing to call it, absolutely. And so then what you get to do is look through it and say, is this something that I really need to be looking at? And so, a great tip too, if you get carbon copied on a lot of things, create a folder in your mailbox that's called carbon copy. It can be nothing more fancy than that. But then set up a rule. Every time you're carbon copied on an email, it automatically goes to that folder. You might want to let people know, like in your email signature, hey, you CC me on an email, it automatically goes to a folder that I only check once a week. And that's to aid in my productivity so I can meet your needs better. Because see, here's what happens. people don't really know who to tell something to, or they just get a little crazy with sending an email out, so they send it to way too many people. So if your carbon copy, go somewhere else. You aren't going to take any action on it. You could look through it once a week, really quick, just glance, and see if anything sticks out at you. But that way you know these are the things that are left in the inbox of someone direct to me.
Right, and if you're one of those people who like to hit reply all, stop it.
Well, I have a good filing system. It's called a circular file. Okay, we are in the studio here with Shari McGuire, who's teaching us how to have less stress and more time to chill with family and friends. We're going to cut to our first commercial break here, and again, the theme is poker. What is the poker term for holding aces and eights? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What is the poker term for holding aces and eights? And technically, it's black aces and eights, technically. Don't touch that dial, because the best of investing will be right back. Good. Very good, Shari. Having fun? I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, my co-host. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What is the poker term for holding aces and eights?
Well, I had to ask our videographer, Kramer, who said it's the dead man's hand.
Dead man's hand, yeah. Apparently Wild Bill Hickok was holding these when he was killed. That's why they call it that.
Ooh.
We are in the studio here actually, she's on the phone, Shari McGuire, who is helping us with the stress level. And go ahead.
Oh, so during the break, Shari, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there.
That's okay.
Yeah, during the break, Shari's going to tell us about some tips on how to get out of work faster, since it's summer's approaching. We want to figure out how to spend more time at the beach and less time staring at our monitor at the office.
I usually make sure I just get fired from my job. That gets me out of work faster. But go ahead, Shari.
Yes, so here's one of the things that you can do. Many of us have jobs where the work will never get done. No matter how long we stay, if we work 24/7, it will never get done. So what we can do is make a choice and a decision that I'm going to leave work this summer at 4 o'clock or at 5 o'clock. Whatever you decide you want to leave at, and then block your calendar. Let's say you chose 4 o'clock, block your calendar from 4 p.m. until at least like 8 o'clock that night, so that no one can book anything on your calendar. And as a reminder to yourself that, hey, I'm out of here. And then when that time comes, no matter what's going on, make the choice to leave. And here's something that might help you do that. Pretend you have a carpool waiting for you. And your carpool has said you've got 5 minutes to get down there, or we're leaving without you. So that works great. I actually had a carpool once, and that's what we did. We're like, you got 5 minutes, get down here, or we're leaving. And so that will get you out the door, because you have a choice and you can absolutely walk away.
You know, that is so brilliant in its simplicity, and I'll tell you how I sabotage myself all the time. I think to myself, okay, well, I'm going to leave the office at 4, but then I look at my inbox and, oh, one more email came in. I start answering that, and then another email shoots in while I'm responding to the previous email, and I start answering that. Then the phone rings, and before I know it, it's 6 o'clock again, and I didn't make it to the gym, and I didn't get out early to enjoy the day. And so your idea of either just making an alarm or just disciplining, like I've got the carpool, I've got to get to it, but it's just so easy to get caught up in this constant stream of communications.
Well, Mark, my system's worse than that. I work until I pass out. And then when I wake up, it's time to go home. But no, seriously, what I've done is I'll work, and then suddenly I'll feel myself where it's like, okay, I don't quite have enough energy, and I just say, you know what, just 2 more minutes, and then I go, I have to go home.
Well, and then, and I try to get up early, and so I'll go, I'll do a few things in the morning. I try not to go straight to the computer, because I've also been coached that that's not a good thing to do. Don't go straight to your, inbox and, listen to some
Viagra.
Educational material, or not Viagra. No, just, I like to listen to, upbeat stuff or inspirational material and stuff, but eventually I'll make it to my inbox after I've been up for a bit, and inevitably I've got clients who are emailing me like at midnight, and I'm just thinking, nobody ever...
Oops, that's me.
So I've got clients who email me at 5 in the morning, then I've got clients who are emailing me at midnight, so, it's just, as an entrepreneur, it's hard ever to slow down and stop. Do you have any suggestions for a crazy guy like me?
Well, so I think you're on a right path, and what we can do is we train people how we want them to interact with us. So, for example, that the client that emails you at 5 a.m., he knows that you're going to be up at 5 and answering back at 5:15. You've now set an expectation that whenever he emails you at that time, you're going to get back. So what we get to do is retrain people that I only check email twice a day from 8 to 9 and 1 to 2. That's another thing I put in my email signature. And that way people know, okay, well, she only reads the emails during these times of day, and so I know that I can expect an answer back from her. So it's retraining people how we want them to interact with them.
I mean, I'm really bad because I have my computer like right next to where I sleep, and I have the notifications that come on every time an email comes in with a big ding, and I'm getting things at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I'm not getting any sleep.
Yeah, that's right. You need to move your computer. Turn those things off.
So how else do you coach your clients to have less stress in their life, Shari?
Well, so to have less stress, I think it's important to schedule fun in your life. So often we just say, oh, well, I want to get to the beach this summer, and next thing we know, the whole summer is gone, and we only got there one time. And so what you want to do is look at your calendar and plan out that fun. And one fun thing that I do with my son, because he was always bugging me when he was younger about what day of the week is it, what's the date, what are we doing today? So we create a calendar at the beginning of the month, and that helps you remember to schedule in going to the park, going to the museum, going to whatever it is we want to do. And that he holds me accountable to it. Because if I put it on that calendar, we're going to the museum. And so it's a great way to make sure we have lots of fun, too.
Well, can you remind my wife that laundry is not fun? Because that's what she's got scheduled as the fun part. That doesn't work well. And Shari, before we're going to let you go pretty soon here. We got a few more questions for you, but you have a special offer for our listeners.
I do. I would love to send out to you my time management 20-day course, absolutely free. And all you need to do is go to shrinkyourworkweek.com, and in the top right, there's a little form you can fill out, and I'll start sending those out to you right away.
So shrinkyourworkweek.com.
Correct.
Excellent.
I'm glad you mentioned scheduling fun, Shari, because I think that is really, really important. And, there's one of my coaches said that you should always schedule, or try to schedule, if you can't schedule vacations because you work a lot of hours, at least schedule micro vacation or micro adventures, he called it. Even if it's just,
that helps.
2 hours in a day and an afternoon. And I found once I started doing that that really worked.
It does, and then you feel refreshed and better able to come back to your work.
Yeah, micro adventures. What a concept.
Yeah, I mean, I usually work too hard between my 8 to 1 time, like, the regular work week, right? So I'm going to cut it down to 8 to 11. I figure that's enough hours in the day for me to work.
So how does your the way you approach time management, Shari? How does that differ from this gentleman? Is it Tim Ferriss who wrote the 4-hour work week? Are you?
There you go. That's my kind of guy.
Well, that's a great milestone. If you can make it 4 hours a week, that's awesome. But I think the key thing that sets me apart would be this secret that I had talked about earlier, the why. Because that for me really became the clue that when you can use that as your compass. So let me give you an example. So I had my why of wanting to leave work by 3 o'clock in the afternoon so I could get to my son's karate lessons, which meant I start earlier. I managed a project for a year just fine with people across a 7-hour time zone difference from California to Dublin, Ireland. And then my boss came to me and said, we're going to have another project and people are going to be in California. I need you to start 2 hours later to make that work. And if you don't start 2 hours later, you're fired. And I said, let me make sure I heard this right. I'm fired if I don't start 2 hours later. Yes, you are. Wow, let me think about that. Got back to her the next day and said, you know what, it worked just fine with this other project for me to be working the hours that I am. There were no complaints that I've heard, and I had called around a bit. So I'm going to keep my hours the way they are. And guess what? Nothing happened. I called her bluff. But see, I had that compass of what was most important in my life, of being there for my family, against which I could make the really tough decisions.
Good for
And
you.
that was the secret in being able to make the difference in taking back 1,200 hours in my life.
Well, and what do you do for those people who just love their job so much they don't look at it as work? They look at it as, almost fun in a way. Do you still give them the same advice?
Well, I have a client too who she's like that. She is an entrepreneur who works from when she gets up to when she goes to bed. And so for her, it wasn't about shrinking her work week. It was about being smarter about what she's working on. Because she would be like planning an event and she'd want to fill the room with 50 people, but she would forget to promote it until a week before and then only have 20 people. And so for her, it was more of that project management side of my background of having a goal, breaking it down and getting a little bit done over time, that I helped her out that way. So it's time management in a different way.
Well, great. Shari McGuire, thank you so much for joining us today and offering our listeners the free shrinkyourworkweek.com. And what is it, a free course? Or when they go on shrinkyourworkweek.com, what do they get?
It's a 20-day time management course, and it's important to know you're going to get one video a day for 20 days, and they're only 1 to 3 minutes in length. They're very quick.
Very good. Thanks again, Shari, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Okay. And that was Shari McGuire. We are going to cut to our second commercial break. Again, the theme is is poker. Now here's the question. In Texas Hold'em, what are the 3 terms used for when the dealer turns over the cards on the first, second, and third go-around? Don't touch that dial because the best of investing will be right back.
The answer is oof, ouch, and oh crap.
You ready, Mr. Kramer?
Better have him, Jeff.
Ready, Teddy, Freddy.
Eddie.
Here we go. And a 1 and a 2. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, my famous co-host. And guru-rooking one. You're so guru-rooking. Okay, so we got to the second commercial break. We asked this trivia question. In Texas Hold'em, what are the 3 terms used for when the dealer turns over the cards on the first, second, and third go-round? Mark?
Those would be oof, ouch, and oh crap.
That is close. Okay, Mr. Kramer, I know knows this. It's the flop, the turn, and the river. Isn't that right, Mr. Kramer?
That is right.
That is correct. All right. Okay, Mark, we received an email for you. It says, I am thinking of investing in your fund, but I thought I heard you say that the minimum was $50,000. Do you have any exceptions to that rule? Can you accept less?
Well, the answer is maybe, as all good things are. So, I'm president of Pacific Private Money. We are a hard money loan broker in the San Francisco Bay Area here. We make loans to real estate investors and other people who are not able to borrow from the banks. All our loans are secured by real estate, mostly here in the Bay Area. We lend up to 65-70% of the value. So they're well secured, well collateralized. And the source of the money, the source of the capital that we use to make our loans are from private individuals. And there's 2 ways that an individual can participate in this investing, because our investors get returns starting at around right around 8% and up, but in a essentially zero interest rate environment that we have right now with the banks and such, anything north of 5% is a pretty darn good return. And
nowadays, yeah.
so we're talking about 8% and higher. And the 2 ways that people can participate in real estate secured note investing is to either invest in individual notes, also called whole note investing, where you basically put your money in one loan that's to a borrower secured by a piece of real estate. The second way is to participate in a mortgage pool fund. And a mortgage pool fund pools investor capital together, and then the fund manager, who is us, we make loans to real estate investors. We have our underwriting criteria that we use. We use our industry standard loan documents, and we go through national escrow and title companies. And so it's the same type of lending that the bank does, but we're generally a lot faster than the banks. We're more expensive, yes, because we're using private individual capital, and there's a certain expectation of return from private individuals, and the fees are a bit more than the banks. But again, the reason people use us is one of two reasons. One, we're a lot faster at funding a loan than the bank is, and number two, we generally will make loans that the banks aren't making right now. The banks really aren't making loans to real estate investors. So anyway, the caller was, or the listener rather, asked a question about the minimum investment in our mortgage pool fund, and it is right now $50,000. It can be less, but generally speaking, we look for a minimum investment of $50,000. And the reason for that is, Bay Area real estate prices, well, they've been going up. We've been talking a little bit about that on the shows last few weeks. But the average loan size we make is about $250,000, $300,000, $400,000, and that has actually been going up as some of the quality of the loan requests has been going up that we've been receiving. So really, in order to take advantage of the loans we do, $50,000 is a minimum, and then secondarily, we can only take accredited investors in that fund, and an accredited investor is someone who has a net worth of $1 million, not including your personal residence, or you've made $200,000 in income the last 2 years in a row.
Does that knock out a lot of people?
Not in the Bay Area, I'll tell you that much. Not in the Bay Area. You may not have a $1 million net worth, particularly if you lost a lot of your net worth when the real estate market turned. But generally speaking, a lot of people I know are making more than $200,000 a year as a single individual. Now, if you're a married couple, it's $300,000. So, and anyway, so our fund is limited to accredited investors, and generally speaking, there's a general expectation in the industry by brokers like ourselves that when we're working with private individuals who are investing their money, we tend to prefer to work with an accredited individual because it's shunned upon by the industry and the regulators to be using what they would call a little old lady's last savings.
Well, the funny thing is it's not like you're doing risky loans.
No, that's not it. But it's considered two things. One, it's considered an alternative investment because of its illiquid nature. And what do I mean by that? Well, you buy stocks, and if you had to, you can sell them tomorrow. You can buy bonds, and if you had to, you can sell them tomorrow. You can buy a number of
for the most part
traditional, for the most part, but a number of traditional investments, they're considered liquid. The most liquid being a savings account, checking account, savings account, money market account. When you invest in real estate secured notes, it's considered illiquid, but even that's not really true because there's a thriving secondary market for selling individual notes. So if you funded, let's say you funded a note with $100,000, maybe the note was $100,000, maybe it was more, and you have a fractional interest in that note. If you wanted to sell that, you could. There are websites like loanmls.com that have a thriving market of people who are, trading and selling notes.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not
fractional notes, or they own the whole thing.
Well, you can sell a fractional interest. You can sell a whole note. There's a number of ways you can trade what's called your beneficial interest in a note. So there are ways to do that. And so anyway, what was my point? My point was that we generally work with accredited investors, and in the Bay Area, there's obviously a lot of wealth. And so if you're an accredited investor, but you're a little bit disappointed with the yields that you're getting on your savings in general, or if you're looking just for a way to boost the average return you're making, you want to diversify some of your savings, you want to consider some alternative investments such as whole notes or a mortgage pool fund investment opportunity, you should check us out. Edward, you and I are both boomers, and we both had our share of experience, I'll call it, from the turn in the market in 2008, and a lot of us are not on track to retire in the way we had envisioned maybe 10 years ago. And so we need to earn higher yields on our savings. We need to get those, we need to boost the yield. So,
And Social Security is going to be changing their rules too. Not that I was planning on retiring on Social Security, but you know how that works.
There's a bridge loan program that allows us to make a loan to a home buyer when they need to close quickly. And so there's a lot of times when you might need to close quickly, and one of them is when you're in a super hot real estate market like we are now and you're bidding against cash buyers, and you know that you're not going to get the deal if you put in an offer with a 30-day loan contingency. So we've been getting a lot of requests from home buyers who want to be able to just put in an all-cash offer and get the deal. Now it's going to cost them more to get a hard money loan, and they do intend to pay it off. They intend to pay it off within 30, 45, 60 days with a bank loan as a refi, to refi our loan out, and it does make it more expensive in total to buy the house, but it allows them to get the house they want.
That's the most important thing.
Right. So if there's a house you really, really want, and you want to put in the strongest possible offer, something you might want to consider is finding out how you can take advantage of a hard money bridge loan that would allow you to close in 10 days or less. So it's really it's a compelling thing, and again, it's not for everyone, but in certain situations it applies. Now, the bridge loan I'm working on right now is a little bit different. Here is one where the couple have a home being built for them right now in the Bay Area. So it's a subdivision. They're back in the construction mode. They're finishing up homes and they're selling them. So these guys already purchased the lot and the contract and the house, and now the contractor's building the house for them, and they have to close in June. And so they had everything lined up, and then all of a sudden they got a credit glitch, which was unexpected, and it got the bank, basically the bank turned them down, and now they've got a house. They've got over $50,000 in money that has what's called gone hard, meaning their deposit's non-refundable. If they don't close, they're going to lose that money, and the builder's going to sell it to somebody else. So they came to us, and they needed an 80% purchase loan. Now, we normally don't make 80% purchase loans. However, this couple owns other real estate.
There you go, cross-collateralization.
Exactly. This is a multifamily building in another state, but we can use that as additional collateral to increase the loan from our limit of 70% to 80%, because now I'm looking at two pieces of real estate, and so the combined loan to value now is actually less than 70%, which it would have been if I had just made the one loan against that new home. So
also psychologically, they got two properties tied up now, so they're going to be more apt to want to save both.
Well, and that's the good news for my investor, who might be a little bit skittish about, well, I don't know, 80%. And again, our loans are funded by private individual investors. So as I show this loan funding opportunity to some of my investors in determining who's looking for a funding commitment, I already know in my mind that there'll be a few investors who will look at it, and they might call me on it, and we may talk about it, and they may, that might scare them away.
Sure.
Not everyone's convinced the real estate market is heading north.
Super hot.
Super hot. What if we're in another bubble? What if the real estate market goes down again? I don't want to be stuck being underwater on a loan. So, and rightfully so.
Sure.
I mean, one of the things about this business, about private lending, is we don't push investors to fund a loan. We present the opportunity. They ask the questions. If they decide they like it, they'll give us a funding commitment. Otherwise, they're generally not bashful about saying, I think I'll skip this one.
Yeah.
And in our business, no means no. I will not try to go,
it's like on a date.
Yeah, it's not like, you should, you should consider this, you consider that. So we don't, I don't know what other brokers do, but at Pacific, there's just absolutely no hard sell whatsoever. It's not even really a sell. We present, we attract the capital. People know, most of our investors are experienced, and so they know what they're looking for, and so they know what questions to ask. We answer them, we provide them all the due diligence materials, and they make their decisions. But in a case like this, here we're in a position to help a couple in what quite frankly is a shocking and horrible situation
Yeah.
where they were ready, they were queued up. This is their dream home that's being built. They're getting a good price for it because they went into contract at a time when the market wasn't superheated yet. Probably got into contract a year ago on this thing, and and then all of a sudden they're faced with the worst news ever. The bank says, well, we're sorry, but you no longer qualify for that loan. So they're going to use a hard money loan. In like I said earlier, yes, overall it's going to add to the cost of their home. They will ultimately refi out with the bank loan as quickly as they can.
But they don't lose their $50,000.
Right. They're going to get the house. So this is an opportunity to do something that is helpful. And again, I got to tell you that the private lending industry, and it's just not our company, but it's all the private loan brokers in the Bay Area, in California, nationwide. Most people just would have no idea about this and don't realize this, but a lot of the recovery that we've experienced in the United States economy since everything went to heck in a handbasket in 2008, a lot of the recovery is due to private individuals willing to make their capital available in the form of loans to real estate investors. The real estate investment community has gotten zero help from the banks, none whatsoever. So again, bravo to people who are making their money available, and guess what? You've been getting a great return for that community service you've provided.
For those listeners who just joined us and been hearing this good story about the bridge financing that you did, why don't you give them your information one more time?
Sure. Pacific Private Money.
Okay. Here we have to cut out for today, so here's our thoughts for the day. Google was originally called Backrub. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. And a duel between three people is called a truel, Truel. It reminds me of the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Remember at the end of the movie, Clint Eastwood, the good, Lee Van Cleef, the bad, and Eli Wallach, the ugly. They all pointing guns at each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
You're such a truel.
I'm such a truel, yeah. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Good.
Yay.
2 shows banged out, baby.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Hit it.
Ready, Mr. Kramer?
Never happened, Captain.
Okay, excellent. And away we go. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing on Talk 910. You know our show. It's where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys, in this case just Mark and I today, sitting around a bar, having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to house my co-host, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender. And today's trivia theme is stars in TV and movie roles. Our website is, bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Today's special guest is Denise Winston, who is a 25-year veteran in the banking industry, and she's going to inspire us with her practical guide to survive in any economy. Denise, welcome to The Best of Investing.
Great to be here with you, Edward, Mark, and all of your listeners and viewers out there.
Hey Denise, Mark here, and you also write in your book about kids and money, and let's start out with that because I've got a 17-year-old going off to college who I think I need to help her out a little bit more with managing her cash. What are some of the things that kids need to know about money before they graduate high school?
Probably one of the most important things that somehow we've gotten away from in teaching our kids about money is really about, we have 2 currencies in life. We have one, which is money, and we can make more of that, but we also have one called time. And unfortunately, a lot of our kids don't understand that how they spend their time
matters. And, your daughter's going off to college, she's 17, hopefully she's got a grant or she's got some scholarship, and she probably wrote an essay or did an application.
My wife wrote it.
Don't tell the college that.
Well, if you think about it, if your child is able to spend an hour writing an essay, and I know several kids that have written an essay and they got a $10,000, scholarship or a grant. And ultimately, what we need to teach our kids is that when they spend their time, right, that child just spent, made $10,000 an hour. When they start thinking about how they spend their time and the things that they could be doing, especially for those that aren't going off to school right now, or maybe they're going to be home for the summer,
yes,
they
of
have a
course.
little bit more time.
Yeah,
they
but
can really
Denise,
utilize their time very wisely.
Yeah, but Denise, the only unfortunate thing is that when they go off into the real world, they're going to ask for $10,000 an hour, their first job.
We've got the reality check there. But the great thing about it, they do that. They start understanding that when they do clock in at their job, that they are trading their time for money. And you're right, unfortunately, a lot of the kids right now that are graduating with college degrees, they feel like a job is beneath them. So, they say there's no jobs out there. It's just not the job that they want to pay the amount that they think they should be paid.
Well, that brings me to the next question is, why do you think it's so hard to teach kids about money?
Because we are overwhelmed, stressed out, and confused in general. And, some of the states are out there trying to teach kids in schools, and a lot of times the teachers are not, they don't feel qualified to teach on the subject. And I can tell you, I've spoke to over 12,000 graduating senior high school students in the last 4 years, and what they tell me is they learn more in 1 hour with me than they do in a whole, semester of econ, because it's so hard to learn about money from a 3-inch textbook. It's not relevant
Sure.
or practical for them.
Well,
and quite frankly, that's why I wrote my book, is because if I've got a kid for an hour, like your daughter, she's going off to school, she's leaving, she doesn't like to always listen to her parents or her college, professors or teachers, you give them the book and go, hey, I've actually lived on my own since I was 16. Here's some stuff you need to know when you encounter going to the bank, opening an account, or getting a credit card, or buying a car, or you want to eat out. How do you deal with those financial situations? It's all in the book, and they can go straight to it.
Well, Denise, a true story, and I've told this on the air once before, but that was a while ago, so I'll repeat myself here, is that when my kids were little, I helped them set up their lemonade stand. We lived on a very busy street, so it was a perfect lemonade stand. But I told them, I said, kids, I'm not just going to give you this. I said, you're going to borrow the money from me. It was $10. I said, we're going to go to the store, we're going to buy the lemonade, buy the sugar, whatever else we need, and as soon as you sell the lemonade, the first $10 comes back to me. Now, I'm not going to charge you interest, but I said, but then don't tell anybody else this, because else they'll think I'm a softie. But and they understood, and they paid me back, and then sure enough, they started making a little bit of money, and they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Was that Mark that said that?
This is Edward.
Edward. I love hearing stories where parents are really teaching those kids those experiences, and I often call them financial field trips. It's one of the easiest ways for us to really teach kids about money, and it's about those experiences. Unfortunately, when we think about our kids, we wouldn't send them off, out into the woods on a hike without some basic survival skills, right? When they're 18, you wouldn't
Sure.
want them hiking 80 miles in the Sierra. You would want them to know what they need to know, and that's what we need to teach kids about money. Is we can't send them off into the rest of their financial life without some survival skills to be able to deal with money in the real world, because it's harsh out there in the real world of finance.
Yeah, I tell you, the problem is now I get a bill for everything. Setting the table, doing the dishes, saying I love you. Can you imagine paying my kids to say I love you? That's just terrible.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can use allowance as one of those things, the things that we've got to provide a lot of experiences. And there's a lot of different controversy over it, which is right. Do you want to pay your kids for the chores, just like maybe what you're talking about doing, or do you just want them to deal with money and learn how to budget? And, it goes a couple of different ways. There's a couple of different schools of thought on that.
Yeah. So, Denise, I read that you say that a child's credit score is just as important, if not more important, than their GPA. Can you expand on that a bit?
I can, because, boy, is this a big one. As a 25-year former banker, I can tell you, your credit score is very important when you borrow money from the bank, and it can cost you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars if you have a bad score. But what a lot of people don't understand right now, that might be in your listening audience, is that your child's, credit score can determine whether or not they get a job or not, because a lot of employers do a background check on their and it includes a credit score check. And the reason why, there's a lot of them out there, but on top of that, their credit score can also determine where they live, because landlords are going to look at it. Insurance companies, a lot of them look at your credit score to determine whether or not you can have a policy. And yes, banks, and you've got cell phone companies even looking at it. So the reality for us, we need to understand as parents that we cannot let this go by the wayside, because if we send our kid off to school, they get their degree, but they've not managed their credit properly, they may not get the job that they went to school and trained and worked so hard to get. So
in fact,
their earnings potential is huge here.
Yeah, Denise,
so,
they also need to check.
Everybody's going to deal with money no matter who you are or where you come from.
Yeah, Denise,
yes.
But what I think is important too is that the kids, and I don't know if they can do it, we probably have to do it as the parents, check on the kids' credit scores early, because there are situations where prisoners were stealing their credit scores, and I guess it doesn't have to be prisoners, it could be anybody, and the kids don't know it for years.
Well, I just had a conversation earlier today, and a guy's friend actually checked his credit, and somebody had just come to the U.S., taken over his credit score. He was in a good position because the identity theft actually raised his credit score by 100 points because he got a loan and made all the payments on time for a year.
That's great.
Right. People, get your credit. And in the book I cover, there's an entire credit section about understanding and managing your credit, because I believe that your credit score is one of the most overlooked financial tools that we have, not only for investing, but when you've got investment properties and you have a good score, you get a better rate. So there's a lot of different reasons why you need to manage. But you're right. Absolutely, identity theft is one of those things that you've got to cover on a regular basis,
okay.
At least on an annual basis.
Denise,
right.
Stay with us, because we're going to finish off one more question with the kids, and we're going to move on to entrepreneurs when we come back from commercial break. And also, Denise has a special little giveaway for our listeners. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. Who played Jessica Fletcher and Mrs. Potts in the movies? Remember the, what was that? Come on, what was that one? The Beauty and the Beast. There. And don't touch that dial, because we're going to be right back. What are you doing?
I was confused by the whole Mrs. Potts thing, and then Beauty and the Beast. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Okay, good job there, my dear.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so let me... Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Who played Jessica Fletcher on TV and Mrs. Potts in the movies? Anybody?
You got to ask like a movie about Star Wars or Star Trek. Then I'll get it right.
Okay. Denise, you know the answer to that one?
I do not know the answer to that
It's
one.
Angela Lansbury.
Oh,
do you remember Murder, She Wrote? Okay, we are in the studio here with Denise Winston, who is a 25-year veteran in banking, who is teaching us all about money and kids and entrepreneurs. And we want to finish off with the kids situation. So I was going to ask you this last question. What's the easiest way to teach young children about money?
Financial field trips and financial experiences, and you kind of talked a little bit about the lemonade stand is a great way, but really financial field trips. When I was a banker, I loved it when parents would bring their kids in and I could give them a tour and
free samples
directly to the child. So I recommend that you use those day-to-day opportunities to list others. Whether it's you buy my book, you give it to them, you take them to the banker has, a tour, you take them to your investment broker, your insurance agent. Those are all things that they're going to have to encounter in day-to-day life. And the more opportunities you give them, the better off they're going to be. It could be even going to the dollar store and them understanding that it's not just the dollar. We've got sales tax here. So, and they've got to do the math and the change. That's one of the easiest ways and most effective ways to teach your kids about money.
That's great. And I guess when you were the banker, did you give out free samples?
No free samples.
No free samples.
At
Okay.
all.
And what age do you recommend? Like 3, 4, as soon as they can understand English?
English, or money.
Well, I'm sorry. I meant like converse in full sentences.
When your kids are young, one of the best things you can do is to teach them again about barter and trade. So if you don't want to use money when they're a child, you can use raffle tickets. It could be Coke bottles. It could be, whatever the case may be. But you can help them barter and say, okay, if you go to bed on time, or if you do make your bed or whatever when they're 3, 4, 5, you can pay them in some form of currency, and then they can trade that for maybe, movie time or video game time or outdoor play. So they learn the understanding of, how much it helps with math and goal setting. So the earlier the better, but I really think that by age 7 or 8, that's the time to really take them to the bank and start having others give them the experience of being able to converse with others about money on a fundamental. It's great to call ahead to just tell whoever's coming that you're going to come in and you want them to speak.
Well, I taught my daughter how to play Monopoly, and unfortunately she likes the game so much that she kills me at it, and when I don't pay the rent she wants to put me underneath the railroad tracks.
It sounds like she might be a landlord in
the future.
Might have one on your hands.
That's right.
So we're talking money management with Denise Winston, and Denise, what are some? Let's talk about like entrepreneurs for a moment. You talk about some mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they set out to start a business. What are those?
Probably the primary top 3 that I always saw is that unfortunately business owners didn't understand the importance of choosing their entity and actually filing that paperwork. So understanding that whether you're a sole proprietor or an S corp or whatever you choose, there's legal ramifications and there's also tax ramifications that are in there. So you really want to make sure you talk to the right person, get some advice, and set that up, and then file the paperwork. Because as a banker, normally I could never make a business loan to someone unless they've been in business, for 2 years. And if you don't file your, business license with the city or your fictitious name statement or whatever the case may be, I may have a hard time proving when you went into business. So I'd say that's number 1. Number 2, credit score is huge here. If you don't understand how your credit, what it consists of and how to manage it, can cost big. I mean, it could literally cost you $1 million. It sounds like you guys are in the lending arena. If somebody, has bad credit or has to do a hard money loan, sometimes that interest rate can be considerably higher and you're doing $1 million loan. 1% can be big because somebody has a lower credit score. And really the last one is about accounting, not having the right accounting system, not being organized. 80% of small businesses that are out there get audited within the first couple of years. So if you don't have an easy way to track that stuff and keep track of everything, you might find yourself in a world of hurt.
Okay, and then how can small business owners increase their chances of getting a loan from a bank, other than just watching their credit score?
Really, it is about thinking like a banker and understanding the process. I can tell you the majority of business owners that came in and that wanted a loan, they didn't understand that we had collateral and we wanted secondary resource of payment. And yes, we're going to look at their credit score. And everybody that was in a corporation, if they had 20% or more, we're going to look at their credit. And they had to personally guarantee it. So really thinking like a banker and planning it. So if in 2 years you're going to want a new business line of credit, figure out what you need to do. Talk to your banker in advance and make sure that you understand what the situation is, really aggressively, cleaning up your credit and making sure that your taxes are showing everything they need to show in order to be, and that means profitability, usually for the past 2 years, and your accounts receivable are clean.
So Denise, what are some easy ways that a small business owner could organize their finances to save time and money?
It's really complicated. Actually, it's not. It's called an envelope. The easiest thing you can do is understand that you grab an envelope, you put your receipts in it. And this is brilliant because when you're a business owner, if I have $100 in office expenses, and if I lose that receipt, that's like losing a $100 bill. So grab an envelope, put all of your receipts in it, have it in your car, have it in your purse, your briefcase, wherever it is, and when that receipt envelope gets full, transfer it to one in your office. Hopefully you have a file system that has a category for all of your tax write-offs, and you can just drop it in there and give it to your person that does the accounting, but really saving your receipts. And also, if you don't have your receipt, you can't do returns, you can't take care of warranties, price protection is out there. So it sounds silly, but a receipt is just like a $100 bill if you're buying a $100 item.
Well, what I do is, seriously, I try to save all my receipts. I actually just put them in my pocket, and then when I get to my office, I literally have like an envelope folder, and then at the end of the month, when the Visa bill comes in, I do check off to make sure that everything matches, because it's amazing how many times you'll see mistakes on the Visa statement.
Hundreds of dollars in mistakes. I can tell you, in 1 month, I got over $250 in erroneous charges. So you are dead on. That's one of the smartest things you can do. So you get an A+ for the day on that one.
Oh, thank you very much. Mark, anything you want to cover?
Any other words of wisdom on regarding your book, Money Starts Here?
I think really we all have to deal with money. And when you're overwhelmed, stressed out, and confused, a lot of times it's easy to just think that's the way it's always going to be, and it can be the way it's always going to be unless you decide to do something about it. And really what I'd like is if, you've got 2 books there for you, I'd love to get this book in more people's hands so that they can have, the information they need to take control of their lives. And whether it's leaving an extra copy at the office, people can go online and to Amazon and buy the book, and if you buy 2, you get free shipping. And it's almost the same price. So I really just think providing this type of information and sharing what you already know about money with your kids, with your friends and family, and helping people overcome this, for a lot of people, really, really tough time. There's some small things that you can do to get control of your financial life and change the overall quality of your life, but you just got to start somewhere. And money, it starts right here.
Okay, well, we have Denise Winston, Denise Austin. She was she's the exercise girl. Yeah, Denise Winston, sorry about that. Her book is Money Starts Here, and for the third caller that we receive, we're going to be giving her book out. Again, it's called Money Starts Here. You call the 888-912-1190 number.
Great. Awesome.
Denise, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Pleasure to be here with you and Mark and all of your listeners and viewers out there. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Okay.
All right.
And here is our trivia. Who had an early role on television as Sister Betrayal and later played Mrs. Gump in a 1994 film?
Is there a Mr. Gump?
Yeah,
Mrs. Gump? That'd be Sally Field.
That was very good. Did you play that guy in the movie?
He was a creep.
He was a creep, yeah, I like that. Is there a Mr. Gump? Ms. Gump? All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.